Spendthrift Farm introduces new for 2019, the Safe Bet Program. Breed to a fourth-year stallion and watch his first crop of 2-year-olds have measurable success on the track in 2019, or you won't owe the stud fee when your foal is born. Visit spendthriftfarm.com/safebet to learn more. Spendthrift, the breeder's farm. Hi everybody, and welcome to Keeneland Babies, presented by Spendthrift, the breeder's farm. I'm Dan Illman along with Nicole Russo, and let's take a look at Thursday's Keeneland Baby race, carded as race number 2. We'll kick off a 50-cent pick 4 with this Keeneland Babies event, and our sponsor Spendthrift is represented by the number 3 KOLTEN'S Court. Spendthrift's satellite sire, Hampton Court, who stands in Australia for Spendthrift, is the sire of the 3 KOLTEN'S Court. We're going to take this field in program number order, Nicole, beginning with the number 1, Salty Snapper. This is a gelding by Trap Shot. You go deep in this family, you find Breeders' Cup Sprint winner Very Subtle, but this barn hasn't had a lot of success with these sort of runners during the Keeneland spring meets in past years. I wonder if this gelding needs a race.
You know, he might, but I do think his work pattern is very interesting. 2 works back the first week of April, won a quick 3 furlongs, 4th best of 21 at the distance, then turned in a 4 furlong work. You know that I like seeing juveniles with, some longer works to put some foundation in them. And that one was a bit slower, maybe just a maintenance move. So while I do think the trainer statistics point to Salty Snapper maybe needing a race, I find this work pattern interesting coming into a debut.
Coupled entry mate is the number 1A ALCOOLS. This is a gelded son of gemologist with a couple of bullet workouts on the tab and a very nice pedigree. A half to Majestic Dunhill, a capable sprinter on both turf and dirt, and a half to Hog Creek Hustle, who was graded stakes place routing, but won the debut sprinting and might actually be better sprinting. So there's some speed in this pedigree. It'll be interesting to see how the workmate, a Night Bright, fares on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I would keep an eye on Night Bright because this one, obviously the same trainer statistic from the barn that perhaps leads you to think they would need a start before being at their best. But ALCOOLS like a series of very sharp works that makes me think that this coupled entry might offer you a little bit of value.
Number 2 is 2 Dot. This is a son of Sold Out, who took a little bit of money for his career debut on April the 5th, and he just didn't break very well that day. He soon began to pick up the pace, however, split horses turning into the stretch, and was easily second best to that very impressive debut winner, Lady Pauline. With a better start, I could certainly see this horse factoring.
Oh, absolutely. And John Hancock, who with Wesley Ward is usually a force in the 2-year-old races in Kentucky at this time of the year. This could really offer you some value. 2 Dot, second to that Ward trainee that you mentioned, Lady Pauline, who's a well-bred filly, was very well meant for her debut. Sold at a very good 2-year-old by a very good 2-year-old sire in Warfront. I think there's a lot to like here coming off that first experience.
The number 3 is KOLTEN'S Court by Spendthrift satellite stallion Hampton Court, and I thought this horse ran a lot better than the running line looks. He was 82-1 for his debut in that Lady Pauline race, but he broke very quickly from the far outside post, showed big speed 3 wide to the stretch, and then understandably tired. I would expect another speedy effort from this colt here. It's just whether he'll catch another very tough first-time starter.
Yeah, and you know what? The Hampton Court progeny might be better suited for turf later on, but I do think that he's a very interesting stallion when we talk about these 2-year-olds. This his first Northern Hemisphere crop as he shuttled up here for Spendthrift for a couple of years. Hampton Court by the great sire Redoubt's Choice was a Group 1 winning 2-year-old in his own right. Got off the mark with a 2-year-old winner in Mexico last month. He's already had some 2-year-old starters in Australia where they're in kind of the fall racing season there. So I think he's very interesting with these 2-year-olds.
We don't see Todd Pletcher debut many 2-year-olds at Keeneland. He is 4 for his last 6, however, and 2 for his last 3 during the spring meet at 4.5 furlongs. And he'll send out the number 4, Rag Tag, a son of Union Rags that sold for $130,000 as a short yearling. And this dam has had some success with foals in Scandinavia, of all places.
Yeah, right. It's very interesting. It never ceases to amaze me what a global sport thoroughbred racing is. I mean, we were just talking about Hampton Court's worldwide success. Old sire, of course, he won the Belmont Stakes, but he was a Grade 1 winner around one turn and a graded stakes winner going shorter as a 2-year-old himself. He's sired some Grade 1 winning 2-year-olds like Union Strike, Dancing Rags. The criticism seems to be that some of them kind of don't pan out as 3-year-olds. That being said, he is a nice 2-year-old sire. Ragtag has a really solid work tab of 4 furlong works down there at Pletcher's Florida winter base, including a bullet last time out.
The number 5 and the number 6 are both trained by the great Wesley Ward, who seems to dominate these races year after year. Snake River Red is the 5. This one is by Hard Spun. Very nice pedigree. The Dam, a full sister to Sarah Louise, a Grade 2 stakes winner at a mile. She's also a half to Just Louise, a juvenile stakes winning sprinter who won her career debut. Looks like early in the work tab, back in March at Turfway, she might have gone in company with Chili Peaton, who's entered on Wednesday and is probably going to be one of the favorites in her maiden heat.
Yeah, and Chili Peaton, I think, very well meant in her maiden. You mentioned Sarah Louise, who this mare is a full sister to, and Sarah Louise was really just a wonderful, wonderful race filly. As a 2-year-old, she tangled with champion Rachel Alexandra a couple of times, defeated her in the Grade 3 Pocahontas, and was second to her in the Grade 2 Goldenrod. Sarah Louise came back off a long layoff to win the victory ride sprinting at Saratoga. In her second start off the layoff, she dueled champion Indian Blessing to within a head in the Gallant Bloom at Belmont. Just a really fast, tough, classy race filly. Ward
also trains the 6, Joker on Jack, and at first glance we see a lot of turf in this pedigree. This colt is by Declaration of War, who is average with his 2-year-old first-time starters. The Dam was a multiple stakes place turf sprinter in France, the family of Bolesky, who is a graded stakes winning turf sprinter. Interesting work tab, though, for this colt. Looks like that March 29th work went in company with Neabeth, who is also entered on Wednesday and is also expected to run well.
Yeah, and I always say with these work tabs, you should really take a look at DRF's Clocker reports, because our team can really provide some context into how these young horses are working, preparing for their debuts when you don't have a lot of racing experience to evaluate from them yet. This one, yeah, you look at the pedigree and you see so much turf there, but I have to think that means that this is a horse that Ward has targeted perhaps for some of the big spring and summer races in Europe, and therefore that this horse is well meant here, because you've got to graduate in order to move on to some of those things. Broodmare sire Orpin, maybe one of the best runners sired by the great Lore, who had fertility problems. Very interesting stud career he had.
Perhaps the most fascinating entrant in the race is the number 7, Competitive Queen. This is a filly by First Crop Stallion Competitive Edge, and she showed big speed in her career debut for a barn that has sent out some live 2-year-olds. And 2 days after finishing that game second, she went through the auction ring and was bought back for $65,000, and here she is in against the Colts. I wonder if she was really cranked up for that debut race, expecting a big price when she went through the auction ring, and I wonder if maybe she'll regress just a little bit off that effort, but she did run very well first time out.
Yeah, and she was a late entry to that 2-year-old sale after the maiden race. So, I think maybe they kind of had that in the back of their mind as kind of their backup plan for her almost, and weren't going to let her go for what they felt was a low price. This filly just bred to be a good 2-year-old by Competitive Edge, a Grade 1 winning juvenile himself. Since Competitive Queen ran so well as his first starter, he came back with his first winner down at Gulfstream. And the broodmare sire is Uncle Mo, who, of course, a champion 2-year-old, who then sired a champion 2-year-old from his first crop.
Completing the field is the number 8, Snell Yeah. This is a gray colt by Graydar, average with 2-year-old first-time starters. This dam was okay. She was a stakes place dirt sprinter, a 95 buyer top for the Dam Joyous Music. The Dam's foaled 1 runner to date. That one has placed. Perhaps this one will need a race, although I kind of like a couple of half-mile breezes leading up to this.
Yeah, I do like that. And, when I look, I see a really, a work tab that covers a considerable amount of time. So I think Snell, yeah, will have some foundation. But just, yeah, the overall picture, I think, is that this one might need a start.
We kick off the 50-cent pick 4, the early one at Keeneland on Thursday with our Keeneland Baby race. Nicole, looks evenly matched. You've got Pletcher, you've got a couple of Wesley Wards, you've got a couple of horses from other barns that have run really well in their debut. You can go so many different ways. Who do you like?
You really can go a lot of different ways in this race. I don't think that I wouldn't fault anybody for taking one of the Wesley Ward horses. I think Joker on Jack actually might be the more well-meant of the two. That being said, I think if you're going to take a stand against a Ward firster and try not to be so chalky in one of these races, this might be the place to do it because I do think it's very wide open. I'm going to watch the board a little bit. I think 2 Dot, second to Lady Pauline in the debut for John Hancock, might offer you some value. The Pletcher first or Ragtag might offer you a bit of value, and Competitive Queen off her very nice debut might be in the double digits as well. I would zero in on one of those 3, I think.
As Nicole says, watch the board, keep an eye on these horses as they strut into the paddock, and check out what their workmates did on Wednesday, especially ALCOOLS mate Night Bright and Snake River Red's mate Chili Peton and Joker on Jack's mate Naya Beth. They might give you clues on how these horses will run on Thursday. As of right now, though, I agree with Nicole. I have a feeling that Wesley Ward might be prepping Joker on Jack for something at Royal Ascot. I'm expecting that one to run well. I do think Competitive Queen's going to show big speed again, and I think 2 Dot with a more alert break can give a good effort as well. So for the 3 horses I'm going to be concentrating on to kick off this pick 4 are 6, 7, and 2. It's our Thursday Keeneland Baby event, and it is presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.